What's up, bud? It's Hat and Beard. 1 year removed from the Ben Johnson-led Detroit Lions offense. Obviously, we seen what happened with the Johnny Mo Screens. Johnny, don't throw the screen. Johnny Mo Screens Morton as our offense coordinator. Didn't work out midway through losing his offensive play calling duties to Dan Campbell. The Lions are among something like 40% of teams in the NFL. We're going to be looking down the barrel of having to readdress an offensive coordinator position. This is something different for the Detroit Lions. Historically, by now, we'd be looking at a full rebuild, but here we are. It is nice to just be in the, we have to replace a coordinator because he wasn't up to our expectations. We still managed to finish above 500. Golden era of Detroit Lions football. There's a lot of names have been kicking around, right? There's a lot of guys out there, a lot of hot, young, talented names, a bunch of well-developed, pedigreed veteran coordinators. But the thing is, there's a lot of head coaching jobs that have a good amount of upside to them, right? There are teams that have good rosters that you could walk into kind of like slipping into a Mr. Rogers sweater, nice and comfy, real cool, clean, calm, and collected. Not a whole lot of tweaking that needs to go along. Some teams that are just almost there. If I was a guy like Mike McDaniel, I'd be like, Pittsburgh, why aren't you calling me? Please, Pittsburgh, call me. I would like to walk into a playoff Super Bowl contending team now, please. Thank you. Yes, I know they got trounced by the Houston Texans, but I think a few adjustments there. Maybe Arthur Smith getting the boot and stopping with the obsession over Jonnu Smith in Pittsburgh would be nice. But NFL Insider, we're going to talk Lions today, guys. Lions. NFL Insider projects the Lions will have their hearts broken in their OC search. There is a guy. He was here yesterday. Shout out that blonde from Nashville on Twitter. Mike McDaniel was on her flight from Detroit to Nashville yesterday. So that's pretty cool that he was there. People seen him. Hopefully it went really, really well. Mike McDaniel's been on the short list for us here at the Hat and Beard Show, Mad Hatter Nation. You guys know we've been calling for Mike McDaniel since Ben Johnson left last year. But if that isn't the route we're going to go, right? If that doesn't shake out because he is a S-tier candidate right now, right? We got to look someplace else. And what could that other name be? If you've been following along with the live show, guys, make sure that you tune in to the live show Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. at youtube.com. It is wild time, right? It's people love it, right? You got Mad Hatter Nation has been asking me where you are. Why aren't you here hanging out with us? They want to know why you're not in the live chat every day, dude. All you can do is subscribe. Come on down. We're hanging out Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. If you were there, you would know that I am also very high on Mike Kafka. Pros and cons of Detroit Lions hiring OC Mike Kafka, interim head coach of the New York Giants. There's some good reasons why this guy should be on our short list. It's hand meets glove type situation. But before we get into all that, would you kindly walk on over to that subscribe button, subscribe to the channel if you're new here, ring that notification bell so that you can be notified every single time we upload at 4 p.m. as well as Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. It's the live show. It's the Hat and Beard Show live, 10 to 11. Come hang out, dude. It's a wild time. We don't just talk ball. We don't just talk ball. It's a good time, dude. Like the video, share this around every single person that you know. Tell your friends, tell your grandma, tell anybody, dude. That's the best way. And if you really, really, really like what we do here, brother, if you got one to spare, could you go ahead and drop hype on the channel video for me? I do like the hype button, please. All right, now that's out of the way. Guys, let's talk what A to Z Sports has for us today. Mike Payton. Shout out Mike Payton over at A to Z Sports. These guys I like what they do here, man. Give them a read. The Detroit Lions offensive coordinator search is in full swing right now. On Tuesday, the Lions interviewed former Miami Dolphins head coach Mike McDaniel for the job. And make no mistake, he is very likely the top dog for the job. The problem is that 9 teams are looking for a head coach right now. And McDaniel is expected to be one of those guys. Well, it has the best chance to get one of those gigs. In fact, Dan Garanzano projects he will get one. And where does Dan have us projecting? No, Mike McDaniel, land ESPN, sorry guys, projects the Cleveland Brown Eyes will hire Mike McDaniel for their head coach job. All of the intel we have on this one says the Brown Eyes are looking for an offensive-minded head coach who won't mind keeping Jim Schwartz as the defensive coordinator. That makes me wonder why they don't give the head coach job to Jim Schwartz. An outcome I believe is also possible here. Now, I can speak to Jim Schwartz as a head coach. I'm going to be very, very, very honest with you guys. Although it did not work out in Detroit for Jim Schwartz, if you're looking for a similar leadership style to Dan Campbell, but with a little bit more of a toned down elder statesman approach to it, Jim Schwartz is going to be your guy. Jim Schwartz is going to be your guy. I'm telling you right now, he does bring a bit of that grittiness nature. If you were to get in our DeLorean and hop in and get that flux capacitor going and run down memory lane, grab Jim Schwartz, pull him forward in time, pair him up with Brad Holmes, I'm sure you would see similar success and similar culture shifts in the Detroit Lions organization under Dan Campbell with Jim Schwartz. They're very similar in the way they kind of handle their business and their attitude. Cleveland, stop making mistakes. I'm not saying McDaniel's going to be a mistake. The correct choice, though, is Jim Schwartz. Cleveland's perpetually challenging quarterback situation could make this job tough sell, but McDaniel is quirky, creative, and confident. He could be the linchpin to unlocking Shedeur Sanders. I'm being very honest here. This is an editorial, or I'm not reading from the link here. I do think that if you were to pair Shedeur Sanders up with a Mike McDaniel, there is a greater than not possibility that it would be wildly successful. And his successes in the challenging QB situations during his first 2 seasons in Miami, it's not tough to imagine the Brown Eyes front office want to tap McDaniel's ideas about how to design and run an offense. So here are the things that could make you feel better. The Lions are the only offensive coordinator job that McDaniel has interviewed for. Okay, that's a good thing. That's a big deal, and it shows that he's taking the Detroit job very seriously. It also means I'm thinking that now, for us Lions fans and Dolphins fans, we did have a joint practice against Miami during training camp. I'm sure Mike McDaniel's seen a lot of things that he very much liked about Dan Campbell and how he conducts himself and goes about his business. He has interviewed for the Browns job, but so has Todd Monken, Arden Dearden, Dan Pitcher, Tommy Reese, Jim Schwartz, Grant Oldinsky, Nate Steelhaas requested, Jesse Minter also requested, and John Harbaugh has also been requested. The Brown Eyes are casting a very large net for this job. As Garanzano reports, Schwartz could get the job, and if he doesn't, the Brown Eyes still want to keep him as their DC, meaning the incoming coach doesn't really get to bring their full staff. Plus, it's just hard to overlook the decades-long quarterback issue. So McDaniel, who realistically just has his one more shot at being a head coach, is probably not super keen on jumping into this one. I know I wouldn't be. We'll see what happens. That right there is a very, very... So Mike McDaniel is in a very interesting career point, right? He's coming off a less than stellar tenure in Miami and unceremoniously terminated after being a mediocre team at best. Okay, I think he went something like 35-35. Not great, not terrible. But do you want to just take any job that's available, like the dumpster fire Cleveland Brown Eyes, the mistake by the lake, and get into that mess? Or maybe recalibrate, reload, re-engage, go out on the attack, come back into the familiar confines and lower role responsibilities of the offensive coordinator. Come to the greatest show on turf. I've said it many times on the live show, and we're going to keep saying it until it happens. We're going to speak this into existence. You take guys like Jahmyr Gibbs, kind of a goofy guy, right? You take Amon-Ra St. Brown, Mr. Picking Boogers, flicking them, J-Mo, also kind of a goofy guy, although a lot of maturity this year. The growth, both on the field and off the field of Jameson Williams. You're looking at a future Walter Payton Man of the Year award nominee right there. Jared Goff, also kind of a goofy guy, right? Sam Laporta. Got kind of a goof troop here on offense. So why not get the goofiest dude, the goofiest guy coordinate your offense. You could have the goof troop out there. You could have the goofiest show on turf, dude. Oh boy, oh boy. Get us the goofiest offense, the goof troop, goofiest show on turf. Let's go, Mike McDaniel. But ego could get in the way of that happening, and dollar dues. If you're in the job market, you don't want to go backwards, right? Nobody ever wants to go backwards. It's all about linear movements or moving upward, right? You don't want to be moving back. This would technically be a career step backwards, right? Think of going from a manager job to an assistant manager job. That's technically a demotion, right? Whether you're moving upwards in dollar dues or company responsibility, you are still at title less than the manager, per se, Michael Scott. Does Mike McDaniel want to be Dwight Schrute to Dan Campbell's Michael Scott? Or does Mike McDaniel want to be D'Angelo Vickers, right? Does he want to be D'Angelo Vickers and try and be the manager at another team? Personally, Mike McDaniel, you had your shot, right? You accidentally discharged a firearm in the office while under your watch. Okay. So just like Dwight, brother, you're going to have to start over and you're going to have to wait it on out, dude. And you're going to have to show through lots of hard work, trial and error opportunities, right? Showcase again that you deserve the opportunity in a few years to possibly be the manager of the office again. Millennials out there, my Office fans, shout out if that made any sense at all. But in the event that that doesn't happen, right? In the event that we don't go the Mike McDaniel route, well, we still got to figure out what we're going to do, right? What are we going to do at the offensive coordinator spot? There are many different avenues to go down. We could go down the keeping it in-house route and promote from within. Hank Fraley is a name that interviewed twice for the OC job for the Seattle Sea Chickens, is starting to get more opportunities, at least looked at by other teams. Do you want to go with an outside hire? Obviously, there were mistakes that were made with the Johnny Moe screens. Don't throw the screen, Johnny Moe screens, Morton. Didn't really work out for us, so there could be a little bit of gun shyness around that possibility. Probably going to be the direction you have to go, though. David Blau is off the table. He is now the OC in Washington, right? We just talked about how Mike McDaniel, the only OC job that he's interviewing for is here in the 313 with Detroit and the Dan Campbell coaching staff. If it doesn't go that way, though, my number one candidate, and it is slowly becoming a 1 and 1A type situation here for me. I'm being very, very, very honest with you guys here. I was very impressed with the job that Mike Kafka did as the interim head coach and in his limited time as the offensive coordinator for the New York Giants. He has a pretty impressive resume. Quarterbacks coach, passing coordinator for Patrick Mahomes when he won Super Bowl MVP, right? You see what he was able to do with Neighbors and Scatabo and Jackson Fart and Dart. Mike Kafka, young, very smart. He went to Northwestern, right? No, that's all right. That's okay. I'm going to be your boss someday, right? I do like the offensive schemes, and we got a heavy dose of it during the Giants-Lions game, right? I'm telling you, dude, Mike Kafka schemed up an offense that exploited every single weakness that the Detroit Lions defense had. On top of that, he was scheming up plays that forced our players to play to their weaknesses. He's a very bright guy. I do think he should get a couple sniffs for a head coach job. I really do. He was able to handle the pressure in New York with a rookie quarterback. You had an ascending Cam Scatabo before the ankle injury. You had last year's everything rookie and Malik Neighbors, right? The ceiling was very, very high, and then injuries started piling up. Now, Jackson Fart and Dart, I still think passed for over 3,000 yards, I think, but also ran for another 500 and piled up 9 rushing touchdowns, right? That's Mike Kafka. Mike Kafka was able to get good Jameis Winston, not bad Jameis Winston. You know what I'm saying? He is able to do some things. Mike Kafka deserves a little bit more hype, a little bit more. This could be the actual guy. I know Mike McDaniel's our hot name, dude. I like the character. I want the goofiest show on turf. Bring on the goofiest show on turf. But if we're not going to go the goofiest show on turf, business. We're putting 10 toes down, standing on business, going after Mike Kafka. Who's Mike Kafka? Who is Mike Kafka? The Lions' search for the new offensive coordinator could lead them to Mike Kafka, a popular name among NFL offensive minds. The New York Giants offensive coordinator and interim head coach has steadily built a reputation as a creative, adaptable coach with strong quarterback ties, and he'd be an intriguing hire for the Lions team trying to maintain its offensive identity. One of Kafka's biggest play calling cards is his offensive background. He comes from the Andy Reid coaching tree, having served as quarterbacks coach and passing game coordinator with the Kansas City Chiefs during Patrick Mahomes' rise. He gained valuable firsthand experience in modern, aggressive passing attack through this. Plus, his experience working hand in hand with the future Pro Football Hall of Famer alone carries weight. Kafka also has shown promise in his time with the Giants. For starters, in his first year coordinator in 2022, he helped tailor a scheme to former New York signal caller Daniel Jones' strengths. It led the Giants to a 9-win season and a victory over the Vikings in the wildcard round of the postseason, the franchise's last playoff victory. And he also was able to, Daniel Jones had his statistical best season of his career. Now, honestly, I was in awe. It's this retardation of the growth of quarterbacks coming out of college to the pro level. We're seeing it with, at times, Baker Mayfield. Mac Jones is probably going to get the Sam Darnold contract. Sam Darnold, okay? Daniel Jones doing the same thing with Indianapolis, right? These guys who were able to reinvent themselves. Now, that's not to say that the people that they were with were bad. They just weren't getting the best out of them. And you see that in the 1 year that Mike Kafka was really able to get his dirty little dick beaters all over Daniel Jones, he had his best statistical career, and the Giants had their last postseason victory. So a little bit of getting the most out of not a great situation. Obviously, Jared Goff is a several tiers higher than Daniel Jones, and I think Mike Kafka. I think what Jared Goff is able to do now at this point in his career, cerebrally as well as physically, is exactly the perfect situation that Mike Kafka wants to walk into. You have 2,000-yard receivers, two receivers that could have all-pro ceilings. I mean, Amon-Ra is a second-team all-pro. Jameson Williams has a 1,600-yard season ceiling very easily. Sam Laporta, come back from injury, 1,000-yard receiver. At time of recording, two of the best running backs and the best combo of running backs in the NFL. You retailer the offensive line, and Mike Kafka is riding high on the hog. He's happier than a pig in shit, crushing it on offense. And you don't have the goofiest show on turf. You have the suit and tie show on turf. While Kafka finished 2-5 as the Giants' interim head coach, he managed to keep the offense afloat. Quite notably, the Giants, in Kafka's second game as interim head coach, produced 517 total yards and an overtime loss to our Detroit Lions. This was the case despite backup quarterback famous Jameis starting in the place of star rookie passer Jackson Fart and Dart. Winston ended up throwing for 366 yards in the Week 12 contest. He also caught his first ever career reception and took it to the house. I still can see that play in my head. Chaps my ass every single time. It should also be noted that Dart and his fellow first-year pro, Cam Scatabo, prior to a season-ending ankle injury, showcased signs of growth under Kafka's watch. Additionally, Kafka's adaptability could mesh well with Lions head coach Dan Campbell. He showed flexibility under former Giants head man Brian Daboll, you mean bald Matt Patricia, by leaning more heavily on the ground game when needed, suggesting he could tailor the scheme around Detroit's strengths. His reputation as a proficient communicator and collaborative coach would also enable him to form a solid working relationship with MCDC. Overall, with his connection to Reid and experience calling plays, I believe Kafka could quickly emerge as one of the favorites to land the offensive coordinator gig in Detroit. I believe he'd be able to establish a positive rapport and with signal caller Jared Goff, JG16 for MVP, just as he did with Mahomes in Kansas City and Dart in New York. I believe that the longtime assistant would also be able to work well with the rest of the Lions' offensive coaching staff, allowing the Detroit offense to continue to thrive. That is something that we don't ever really think about, is the symmetry, the collective mind meld, the working together as a team for all of the coaching staff on the offensive side of the ball. Yes, we go, oh, the offensive coordinator. Oh, well, then there's the O-line coach and the run game coach, blah, 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 blah. They all have to be able to get along and work together and understand what one another are saying. You don't want to end up with this Johnny Mo screens. Don't throw the screen, Johnny No screens. You don't want to end up with a Johnny Mo screens where it's basically he's speaking Mandarin and our offense is speaking Cantonese. It just ain't going to work out. As at this present juncture, I am in the midst that Kafka would be the next best thing after ex-Dolphins head man Mike McDaniel. And on top of that, he'd be an overall solid hire for Detroit and an upgrade over John Morton. That last line isn't saying very much, an upgrade over John Morton. Dude, I could get you a McDouble that's been sitting under the warming rack for 20 minutes, and that would be a better offensive play caller than John Morton ever would have been. But yeah, I honestly... Now, I don't want us to get this mentality of Mike McDaniel or bust. Anybody else is just a lesser than candidate. I'm trying to tell you guys right now that Mike Kafka is as qualified and should be viewed with as much pedigree as Mike McDaniel. They both have head coaching experience. Yes, one was an interim position for a short and condensed amount of time, but he was successful enough, right? If you can't get Mike McDaniel and have the goofiest show on turf, the goofiest show on grass, then yes, Mike Kafka should be viewed as an equal to Mike McDaniel on the hire. Not a consolation prize, not a, well, we didn't get the guy we wanted, we're going to make it work with this guy. You know, think of it as like this. Grandma wagon this conversation, right? When a team hires Mike McDaniel away, and the Lions end up hiring Mike Kafka as their offensive coordinator, it might not be who you thought you wanted, right? But the last time the Lions let somebody else get their guy and we were left with our consolation prize, that would have been the number 2 overall pick in the draft, Aiden Hutchinson. Obviously, we're comparing assholes to elbows here, but I'm telling you guys right now that there is no shame in getting Mike Kafka. It very well could end up being the better of the two hires as far as baggage from outside, nonsense that follows them from Miami, any type of narrative that follows them around. Also, Mike Kafka, as much as I like Mike McDaniel for being one of the goofiest guys in the NFL, Mike Kafka isn't that, so you do get a little bit more of that statesman-like pedigree, a little bit more of that high-end professional coachability. But look, guys, there's no shame in Mike Kafka if we don't get Mike McDaniel. Obviously, I want both of these guys. I am over the moon about Mike McDaniel. I've been calling for Mike McDaniel since Ben Johnson left last year. I do think that he's going to be a successful OC, especially if he comes here to Detroit. He'll be able to unlock Jared Goff, Amon-Ra, everybody. It'll be a kid in a candy store. To that same point, though, Mike McDaniel will also be anybody that takes over our offense should be, as long as their name's not John Morton, they're not a potato. Should be a kid in a candy store. We have all the toys. Brad Holmes is going to continue to crush it in the draft. We're going to go ahead and get ourselves some offensive linemen to really bolster and get back to what we do well. Appreciate each and every one of you guys who clicked, watched all the way to the end. Thank you so much. It's an OG move. Make sure you slap like on your way out the door. Drop a hype if you got it. I've been Hat and Beard. You've been an attentive audience. Until next time, make sure you tune in Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. for the live show. Bonga, bonga. Frig off.